Homes, H-O-M-E-S, just home with an S on it. And joining with me this evening is my relationship coordinator, Jamie Sturchie. And we're very pleased to have Jamie join in. For those of you that are not familiar with me, professionally, I'm a CFP, a Certified Financial Planner, and my practice focuses almost exclusively on special needs. So we assist families throughout the state of Indiana and Kentucky with the legal, financial, and government benefit issues that are a part of our special needs journey. And so I want to thank Special Olympics Indiana and their incredible leadership team, Jeff Mueller and Kelly Reese. And with us this evening is Francie Smith out of Princeton, Indiana. And I just want to thank Special Olympics Indiana for the incredible work that they do for our special needs families and our special needs kids, and their willingness to host and bring this incredibly important information to you. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the first of three in a series. And so it will be this Tuesday, next Tuesday, and the third Tuesday. So 3 Tuesdays in a row. And this evening is on government benefits. And then next Tuesday is going to be on guardianship and ABLE accounts. And then the third and final workshop in the series is going to be on special needs trusts, as you've never seen them before. And we will be talking about all the different types of special needs trusts. There are actually about 4 or 5 different types of special needs trusts. And in the last workshop, we'll put all of this together. So both exciting information and also a deep dive, as we've been unable to do before as a result of the luxury of having the 3 workshops in the series. So I want to certainly handle questions because we do have a good sized group this evening. There is chat, and I would encourage, if you have a question, to click the chat icon and then put your question into chat. And Jamie will hopefully be monitoring that. Okay, thank you so much, Jamie. Appreciate that. She'll monitor chat and make sure that your questions as entered are brought to my attention, and she can kind of jump in and stop me and make sure that we deal with questions as they come. We have a hard stop of 8 o'clock, and I want to respect your time. So by 8 o'clock, we will be wrapping up. We will probably take right up until about 8 o'clock because there's so much with government benefits, but we will finish by 8. Also, I hope that you both enjoyed this evening, and I want you to encourage others to join in. The link for this evening is good for the next couple of workshops, and so feel free to share it liberally, email it to others, encourage others to join in, and hopefully over the next 3 weeks, our ranks will grow as you find the information helpful. As a part of participating in the workshop, there's a free follow-up consultation provided to each family. And I think Jamie may have assisted us by putting her email into the chat box. And so literally getting your free consultation, we set aside a good hour to an hour and a half for each family. And the follow-up consultation is at no charge whatsoever. And it can be done in person at either of the 2 offices, Indianapolis or Louisville. Or if you prefer, we're happy to do it virtually by Zoom, like this evening's workshop. So again, Jamie's email address is in the chat box, and getting your a free follow-up consultation scheduled is as easy as just shooting an email to her, indicating an interest in doing so, and she will facilitate. All right, well, again, this evening is on government benefits. And by the way, hopefully everyone received your email today. There will be an email going out the day of the workshop, either the day before or day of, and then there will be an email going out tomorrow, the day after the workshop, and that will include a recording of the workshop so that you can share that with others or revisit any part that you'd like, and a reminder about next week's workshop. So
Gordon,
yes,
that email is probably going to go out Thursday morning.
Okay, so Jamie says it's Thursday, so look for the email with the recording and the reminder about next week's topic and so forth on Thursday morning. Okay, terrific. All right, thank you for that. And I'm going to do screen share as we go to the PowerPoint presentation on government benefits. Again, a reminder, please enter questions into the chat box. There are always lots of questions with government benefits, so please don't be shy. I enjoy the questions and everyone else does as well. And so if I can have a nod from anyone just to indicate you're seeing a slide on the screen with a little girl. Okay, I see a nod. So apparently screen share is working and thankful for that. Okay, government benefits programs. Okay, important disclosure, our special needs team, and I'm supported by a group of individuals. There's myself, there's Jamie, who you have met this evening. We have David Gray, we have Trevor Swearingen. So there's a whole team of us that support families throughout Indiana and Kentucky. But we're not all things to all people. So we have to put that disclosure in there. Special Care, which is the program that we participate with as a part of Mass Mutual, called Special Care. And it's a program of service to the special needs communities across the country. Our geography happens to be Indiana and Kentucky, but there's one of me all across the country. And we focus on helping families in our respective special needs communities. Most of us have a family member with special needs. I have an adult son who'll be 26 next month, who's on the spectrum with Crohn's disease and other issues as well. And so I certainly understand at a very personal level the special needs journey, and is a good part of my passion for helping other families. So this evening, our discussion is going to focus on SSI, including the impact of employment, which is an exciting trend that is more of our special needs community being employed. And so we're going to have a healthy discussion about the impact of employment on government benefits, including SSI and SSDI. Also adult child benefits, that is our children drawing off of our Social Security records. And then we'll talk some about Medicaid, Medicaid waivers, and Medicare. Okay. So leading off with SSI, SSI is supplemental security income. It is a non-medical federal income supplement. It's a program that is funded by general tax revenues as opposed to your payroll taxes. It's designed to help the aged, that is 65 and older, those that are blind, and people with disabilities who have little or no income. Disability needs to be expected to last a long time and eventually result in death. We all pass eventually, of course. Provides cash to meet basic needs for food and shelter. For 2021, in Indiana, the maximum benefit is $794 per month. However, there is an alternate benefit amount of $529 per month. And if someone is receiving $529 per month, then that is an indication that they are being considered deemed or receiving in-kind support. And as a result of that, their benefit is being reduced by 1/3. So again, if one is receiving $529 or that reduced benefit level, that's an indicator that Social Security sees them as basically receiving help from other sources. And so that's a contentious issue, and we work with many families to get the benefit raised. So if you do have a child or family member with special needs receiving SSI, and the 5-something looks a lot more familiar than the 7-something, then that's an example of an issue we can work on to get the benefit increased. There is a winning strategy or process that we go through to assist families in getting the SSI benefit raised to the max. Again, $794 is the monthly maximum in the state of Indiana. There are a few other states where the state provides an additional subsidy because you can't survive on $794. States like New York, California, et cetera. But here in the Midwest, it's $794 generally, and that certainly applies to Indiana. We will talk about what affects your SSI benefit amount in just a moment. We will get to that. In order to be eligible to receive SSI, not only does a person need to have a disability or, in a sense, a diagnosis, as mentioned earlier, but in addition to that, because it is a means-tested benefit, an individual needs to keep their resources under $2,000 pretty much at all times, or shall we say at the start of each calendar month. So if one rises above 2,000, they need to make sure they're back under 2,000 by the start of the next calendar month. So again, for those that just joined us, okay, we're going to be reviewing SSI, the impact of employment, SSDI, which is Social Security Disability Income, including the or the impact of employment, adult child benefits, Medicaid, Medicaid waivers, and Medicare. So all of this will be covered this evening, and we're just starting with SSI, so you have not missed too much. Again, with SSI diagnosis, resources under 2,000, looking to achieve a maximum benefit of $794, in some cases a reduced benefit of $529, SSI can be extremely helpful. At almost $800 a month, we're talking $10,000 on the year, and that's meaningful money for sure. Again, I invite anyone that has a question to please enter it into the chat box, and Jamie, my relationship coordinator who has joined us this evening, will be so kind to monitor that and bring questions to my attention so that we deal with them on a timely basis. It's probably best to deal with them as they come up as opposed to at the end, because of the amount of subject matter that we're going to be covering this evening. Okay. All right, more on SSI, Supplemental Security Income. At the age of majority, that's age 18 in the state of Indiana, eligibility is based on the child's income, not the parents'. So once your family member or a child reaches age 18, that which was a problem or prevented their eligibility for SSI, such as a parent's assets or income, no longer enter in, and it's based on the 18-year-old's assets and income. Assets need to be under the 2,000, as we just discussed, and there are some income guidelines, and we'll cover those in just a moment. It does say, although the statement of household expenses and contribution can affect the SSI benefit level. So in some cases, the mortgage payment or the monthly contribution or the share, so to speak, of household expenses that the 18-year-old is expected to contribute can affect the benefit amount back to the $794 or $529. As I mentioned before, if your family member or child with special needs is receiving $529, then we certainly want to work together to get their benefit increased to the $794, and we have a process for doing so. Now, let's talk about different factors that affect the benefit amount on a monthly basis. Income is one factor. Yes.
Real quick, there's a question. What does deemed mean? In-kind support.
Okay. All right, very good. And on the last screen, toward the bottom, you see in parentheses, deemed or receiving in-kind support. What that means is that Social Security has determined that they're getting help from other sources. Most often it would be parents. So as an example, Social Security at age 18, the Social Security Administration has a predisposition to approve people at the 529 because parents have been paying the bills for the individual up till age 18. So as an example, if the monthly contribution or their share of the expenses was $900 per month, then that's an example of where the 18-year-old would be considered deemed because Social Security can't provide $900 a month, and therefore they're getting help from other sources. So most often it's the presumption by Social Security that parents are helping pick up expenses, et cetera, which certainly is the case prior to age 18. But part of the key to getting the maximum $794 is making a convincing argument to Social Security that they are really carrying their weight or that they are expected to. As a result of that, Social Security needs to step up with a higher benefit amount so they can meet their monthly contribution requirement toward food and shelter, which is a share of the mortgage payment or rent, utilities, food and food-related costs, et cetera. In fact, there is a form that I mentioned here at the top, Statement of Household Expenses and Contributions. It's a Social Security form that I maintain and work with families to create that monthly budget amount, which is essential to getting the maximum SSI benefit. Okay, bullet point number 2 is we start looking at what factors affect the monthly SSI amount. So first is income, and the first $20 of income of any type is waived, meaning Social Security says you can have up to $20 of income monthly and it will not affect your SSI. Then they also waive the first $65 of earned income each month. And so when those two are combined together, basically the first $85 does not affect your SSI benefit. After that, for each $2 earned, there is a $1 reduction on the SSI benefit amount. So a simple example would be someone that is 18 or over, they're receiving SSI and they have part-time employment and they are earning $485 per month. So if their monthly earnings are $485, meaning they're earning about $120 a week, then in that case, the 85 would be waived, taking you down to 400, and then 200 or half of the 400 would go against the SSI. So if one were otherwise receiving $794, they would be receiving $594. But in that case, they have $485 of earned income, and they're still receiving $594 of SSI. So not too bad a situation there. But notice there's a caveat at the end of bullet point number 2, and it says, unless they're still in school. And I'm willing to bet that a number of families have athletes that are still in school. In fact, interestingly enough, I had a Zoom meeting earlier today, and they had like a 12-year-old that has just recently started Special Olympics. And so certainly among the youngest in the group, but what it points to is the fact that, you know, we've got younger people involved with special sports and Special Olympics and unified, you know, et cetera. And so if they're still considered a student, and this would mean they're still in high school, which can be up until age 22, or if they are out of high school, but they are maintaining status in a technical training school, or at least carrying 9 hours, maybe at like Vincennes University or at Ivy Tech, this type of thing, then Social Security will consider them, quote unquote, a full-time student. And while they have student status up to age 22, as you can see in the third bullet point, actually substantial earned income is waived as it relates to the negative impact on SSI. So for 2021, the waiver amount is up to $77.70 of income in a year. So a little over $600 per month. But this again assumes that they are under the age of 22 and they are still a student. But what this points to is their time under age 22 may actually be an ideal time to experiment with different employment situations, often, of course, with the help of voc rehab and supported employment. But if they're under 22 and still a student, in most cases, their earned income will not have an adverse effect upon their SSI. And it's the very reverse of what many families assume, and that is, oh, if they get a job, there goes the SSI. And actually, again, if they're considered a full-time student, they're under the age of 22, it's there comes a job and there comes the full SSI benefit. So it's the perfect time to kind of experiment with or look into potential employment because of no adverse effect on the SSI. I would not pay a lot of attention to the $19.25 a month. That's focused on basically full-time summer employment. Most of our children with special needs do not work full-time. And there are some concerns about having monthly income in excess of what we call $1,310 per month, which is for 2021, what Social Security refers to as the substantial gainful activity limit. And so I would make a mental note or use the notes page that were emailed out to you in advance of this evening's workshop to note the $1,310 per month. That is really a threshold that most parents do not want their child with special needs to be exceeding unless they're capable of ongoing sustainable full-time employment. But nevertheless, before 22, SSI is much more generous with regards to employment and earned income. Child support can also have an effect. And it's not unusual to see child support extend beyond the age of 18, but be careful because in most cases, once they're 18, for every dollar of child support received, there's a equal dollar reduction in SSI. So it's a tough way to get financially ahead when for every dollar coming in, you're losing a dollar out the back. Okay, so this is just kind of a summary of the things that can affect the amount of an SSI benefit. But again, think about before 22, certainly part-time employment and SSI, no problem, no reduction to the benefit. And even if they're no longer a full-time student, the first $85 is waived. And after that, it's only a $1 reduction for each $2 earned. And so one is nearly always ahead financially to work in some capacity should they be able or have the opportunity. Okay, again, I encourage you to put questions into chat if you'd like. Sometimes these questions are best handled as we have the slide up and we're looking at the material in real time.
Gordon, there's a question. Are students in a young adult program who graduated with their certificate from high school still considered in school if the program is through the school system?
So if they are considered a student, that is an IEP is still being maintained, and therefore they have student status, then yes, they would qualify. When they would cease to qualify would be no further IEP, certificate generated, and they're no longer participating in a school program. Any other questions? Okay. So next, let's move on some additional information with SSI. A consumer must be 18 or over if a parent's assets and income are not to be a factor in eligibility. So sometimes parents are frustrated because their child may be 16 and they're turned down for SSI, and that's because they're not 18 yet and a parent's assets and income are still calculated in. The monthly contribution toward food and shelter, there is that form I mentioned, a statement of household expenses and contribution. There are actually 10 categories of expense that Social Security will consider toward that monthly contribution. As a general rule, if you're curious, the best place for that monthly contribution via the calculation from the 10 categories of expenses to land is between those two benefit amounts. The sweet spot, so to speak, is between the 529 and the 794 as to what the share is of monthly household expenses that your child is expected to contribute. So just to suggest that. Again, keep countable resources under 2,000. So what counts toward the 2,000? Certainly the representative payee account. So when Social Security benefits start being received, in most cases, a representative payee account is set up at the bank or credit union. And that's the account that Social Security will electronically deposit into each month. But if you don't transfer money out of that account and that account reaches above $2,000, then you're triggering a period of ineligibility. And Social Security is actually monitoring electronically that representative payee account, meaning they know what's going in and what's coming out. And if they deposit several months in a row and you've not transferred money out, and that representative payee account rises above $2,000, then sooner or later, Social Security is going to come back, send a letter, let you know that there's been a period of ineligibility, and no surprise, they're actually going to want the SSI benefits returned, that is repaid to the Social Security Administration. If one is still actively receiving SSI, then typically the Social Security, based on their rules, cannot expect a repayment of more than 10% of one's monthly SSI benefit amount. But nevertheless, in time, that overpayment has to be returned. So again, critically important to stay under 2,000. So what all counts? That representative payee account, any other checking or savings account. If there is an IRA from previous employment, that's a factor. A UTMA or Uniform Transfer to Minor Act account, custodial account, a mutual fund, a coin collection, basically something that has either financial value or can be easily converted to cash. Social Security, of course, wants to count just about anything and everything. Even life insurance is a consideration. So be very careful about setting up financial accounts of any type in the name of or utilizing the Social Security number of your family member with special needs, because eventually it may cause a problem in that the more various accounts that you have, the more difficult it is to keep track of if the combination of all that is rising above $2,000. When it comes to life insurance, please make sure that your young person with special needs does not own any life insurance. Make sure that you as a parent owns or someone else other than them owns. If they own it, it probably is not going to end well. There are many situations where the individual owns life insurance on themselves and the policy ends up having to be surrendered or terminated as actually life insurance owned by the individual receiving Medicaid. There's a maximum benefit amount of $1,500. So it's severely limited. It's been that way since the 60s. There's no cost of living increase on that. And if you want to preserve any life insurance that you may have been fortunate enough to have approved or issued on your child or family member with special needs, then make sure they don't own it. Their owning it is not a good situation. Earned income, there's the SGA that we talked about earlier. 2021 limit for SGA or substantial gainful activity is 1310. So if you're curious, what exactly is SGA and what does it mean? Substantial gainful activity is the disability threshold. So basically from Social Security's perspective, if an individual with a disability consistently or repeatedly exceeds on a monthly basis that $1,310 earned income limit, Social Security will basically eventually consider them non-disabled. And it will undermine their ability to receive SSI, Social Security disability income benefits, et cetera. So that's a really important limit to remember. If they're capable of full-time employment, go for it. But what's unfortunate is situations where they repeatedly flirt with the 1310, go over it here and there, that type of thing, and eventually Social Security catches on and it undermines their future eligibility. It's what I call poisoning the well. Please keep that limit in mind. Most of our children with special needs are either paid weekly or bi-weekly. Rarely are they paid monthly. And so also be sensitive to the number of pays in the month. So if they're paid weekly, be careful about the months where there are 5 pays. If they're paid bi-weekly, please be careful about the months in which there are 3 pays. Depending upon what day of the week they're paid on, there are even software applications that you can Google for that'll tell you which months are a concern. But keep a focus on that 1310. Exceeding that repeatedly usually will come back to bite you. The student income exemption we discussed, child support. Also apply prior to age 22 for SSI, if at all possible. That documents in the Social Security system that the disability originated prior to the age of 22, which is very helpful in the future for qualifying for adult child benefits, that is drawing off of a parent's record.
Gordon?
Yes.
Question. What about the stimulus money that they received? Do they have to show where that was used, what it was used for?
Okay, for stimulus money, you can't give it away because giving money to others rarely works in terms of government benefit eligibility. However, you are provided with an expansive period of time to spend the money. So your options basically with the stimulus money are, if you have a debt, credit card debt, or you owe your parents for something that they have purchased or obtained for you, could have been a vacation when we traveled. It could have been an electronic device. So if the parents have had an expenditure for something that is for the benefit of the adult child with special needs, then the stimulus could be paid to the parents, not gifted to them, but to repay the parents for expenses that they've incurred upon the child's behalf. Once the parents have the funds, then of course it can be used for any purpose. A second would be to spend the money to buy that electronic device or buy a new box, bring some mattress, bedroom furniture, clothing, or pay for camp or other needs or wants that the individual with special needs has. And then a third option would be to deposit the stimulus check in an ABLE account. And we will be talking about ABLE accounts, Achieving a Better Life Experience accounts next Tuesday, along with guardianship. If you think you know everything about ABLE accounts, tune in next week because I'm almost certain that we'll be covering material that you have not seen before. The ABLE accounts, based on the legislation that was passed at the end of 2014, has been updated and changed as a result of the Tax Prevention and Jobs Act of 2017. And there are additional changes on the horizon. So I look forward to a robust discussion about ABLE accounts next Tuesday. But an ABLE account would be another option for where the $1,400 stimulus check can be placed because eventually, I think 6 months, if memory serves me correct, is what's allowed to deal with the stimulus check before it becomes an issue for Social Security. So better sooner than later, but there are several options as to what one might do with the payment. Okay, all right. Any other questions, Jamie? Okay, all right, we're moving forward.
No.
All right, be prepared to appeal at the very bottom. More people are approved for Social Security and SSI on appeal than they are the first go around. So don't be shocked or disappointed when they turn you down, and just be determined to appeal and hang in there. We work with a lot of families going through appeal situations. Where appropriate, we also make referral to attorneys that specialize in Social Security appeals. It's a discipline all in of itself, and we're delighted to have several attorneys that we work with that are experts in that specific field.
Gordon, there is another question about the stimulus. If it went to the parent's account.
Okay, so if it went to the parent's account, then it would be very helpful to have some explanation as to how the funds were used for the child's behalf. So that's either it went to the parent's account because it was repaying them for a cell phone, for an iPad, for some other electronic device, or purchase or something beyond beyond food and shelter that SSI is designed to cover. But again, if it went to the parents, it needs to repay for a prior purchase, or there needs to be some demonstration, at least within the 6-month period, that it's used for the child's benefit. So it's not a crisis, but there should be something eventually in the way of benefit for the child that is associated with the stimulus payment. All right, we're going to move on to Social Security disability. SSI, or supplemental security income, we just talked about, is a means tested benefit. That's where one has to stay under $2,000 in resources, where SSDI is different. It's an entitlement, meaning someone is entitled to this, and that's typically because someone has paid Social Security taxes, either the individual with special needs themselves or a parent. So let's dive in with this information, and we're going to start off with what we call adult child benefits. So it pays a benefit to adults who have a disability that began before age 22. So an individual who is unmarried and whose disability originates prior to the age of 22 and has not consistently had earnings exceeding $1,310 per month is in the category of being eligible for an adult child benefit. So this adult child benefit can last throughout their lifetime, and it typically starts when a biological, adoptive, and in some instances, step parents' Social Security benefit starts based on that parent's earnings record. So a parent can draw Social Security disability, Social Security retirement, or in the event of their death. These are the three major trigger points to create adult child benefits for a son or a daughter that has a disability or special needs. So as an example, if a son or daughter starts drawing SSI at age 18, and then let's say 10 years later, when they're 28, one of their parents starts drawing Social Security retirement. Well, that's a triggering event on the parent's part because, again, death, disability, or retirement. And so as a result of the parent retiring, it can trigger adult child benefits, providing that 28-year-old had a disability that originated prior to the age of 22, they're single, and their earnings have not consistently exceeded, in today's dollars, $1,310 per month. This benefit is really rich. And so that's why you want to be thoughtful in many cases about your child, your adult child, maintaining eligibility for this. So of course, it's most exciting to talk about parents' earnings records that are quite high. But if a parent has had a strong earnings record, or maybe one out of the two parents has, then the adult child benefit that the adult child with special needs or disability can draw can be as much as twice the SSI benefit amount. So SSI can be up to almost $800 a month. Well, an adult child benefit off of a parent's record can push up against $1,600 a month. So we're talking some really substantial dollars. So again, quickly, how does one's child become eligible for that? First of all, it takes a triggering event, that is a parent's death, disability, or retirement. Number two, the adult child needs to be single, to have consistently had earned income under the equivalent of $1,310 per month, and their disability originating prior to the age of 22. So with those factors in place, and of course, the logical next question that I always get asked is, well, yeah, if they're drawing a big benefit like that, what does it do to the parent? And the answer is, it doesn't do anything to the parent whose record is being drawn off of, meaning the parent draws the same benefit they would have, even if not having a child with a disability. And so it is over and above. It's over and above. It's really quite substantial. So if you have a situation where you have an income earner that does start drawing retirement benefits, triggers an adult child benefit for their adult child with disability or special needs, and then if it is a two-parent household and the spouse starts drawing Social Security, we're now seeing combined Social Security benefits between quote unquote mom, dad, and the adult child hitting in the $5,000 per month range. So we're talking $60,000 a year coming into a single household in Social Security benefits. I mean, this is huge. And these benefits basically can continue for life, meaning the wage earners draw off of their own records, and the adult child, if they maintain eligibility, can draw off of their benefit as well. So you can have collectively $5,000 a month in Social Security benefits. You can have the adult child working part-time. And the nice thing about an adult child benefit, there's no reduction on that benefit for having part-time wages. So that adult child can have part-time employment, maybe earning $500 a month. So the adult child's earning $500 a month with their part-time job. Collectively, all three are receiving $5,000 a month in Social Security benefits. And frankly, either one of the parents can have part-time employment as well. So, and this is before we even get to any pensions that might apply, IRAs, simple SEPs or 401ks, 403bs, et cetera. So managing these government benefits is huge. I mean, just huge. Now, obviously, the parents' benefits will terminate upon their death. However, the adult child that's drawing off of a parent's record can draw decades after the parent has passed. So if you have a child with a disability with a lengthy potential life expectancy, these benefits can amount to hundreds of thousands of dollars over their lifetime. And again, they can draw decades after the parents have passed. And in fact, after the parents have passed, then we step into a new realm of survivor benefits. And we're seeing survivor benefits reach the range of $1,700 to $1,900 per month. And so you have your adult child with special needs or disability after parents have passed with incomes in the $1,700 to $1,900 range per month before we even consider part-time employment. So again, the reason we're spending a whole evening on government benefits is because it's really significant. Understanding them, how to maximize them, maintain eligibility, create eligibility, et cetera. And then also, especially the decisions the parents make as to when to retire, when to turn on their Social Security benefits, et cetera, are huge. Part of this is because there is what's called a family maximum. And we sometimes find situations where a spouse is planning to draw off of a spouse's income record as well as the adult child. So it is possible to have three people drawing off of a single record. That is the income earner themselves, a spouse whose record is less, and then an adult child. So in those situations, we get up against a family max. And so it gets a little more complicated because we have to look at whether it makes sense for both spouses or both parents to draw off of their own records. in order to maximize the adult child benefit for the child with special needs. So again, a great reason to get together for the individual consultation because it really is difficult to figure all this out on your own. And suffice to say, let me help you. It's what I do every day. And decisions made in most cases are irreversible. And what's at stake, again, tens of thousands of dollars. You hear on the radio when they talk about the, making smart Social Security decisions. Well, they're not even in the realm of special needs. And the implications of decisions made are even more significant when we're looking at a family that has an adult child with special needs. All right, we're going to move to the next slide. Any questions in the chat?
No.
Okay, one thing I want to mention is a rule of thumb. If you want to know a rule of thumb for maximizing benefits, there are two general guidelines. Number one, the highest income earning parent, that is the parent, could be the mom, could be the dad, but and it could be even in a divorce situation, doesn't matter. But whoever the adult child can draw off of that has the biggest income earning record. In order to maximize benefits for all parties concerned, the ideal would be for that individual to retire at normal retirement age, which would be in the age 66 to 67 range, and to work to that point, driving their earnings up, their peak income earning years up until full retirement age. If they do that, that's going to create the maximum family benefit max, and it's going to drive the amount of benefits others can draw off of them. So another way to put it is the person with the biggest income earning record, for them to start drawing Social Security retirement at 62 is not the best situation for maximizing Social Security benefits. Now, they may want to retire before 66 or 67, fine, but drawing Social Security substantially before full retirement age really does stunt the family maximum benefit. So, but we can talk about that more in the individual consultation. The other, I mentioned there were two. The other is weighing whether the spouse with a lesser income record should draw off of themselves or the spouse with a larger income record. Those are the important decisions to consider. All right, on to the next slide. SSDI can replace SSI or be paid in addition to SSI, depending upon the Social Security disability insurance benefit amount. So in some cases, a person is dual eligible. That is, they receive both SSI and SSDI. But generally, if the SSDI benefit is large enough, then it pushes out the SSI. And that's wonderful because, as I mentioned before, there's no reduction on SSDI for that part-time job or wages. And so the sooner a person can get to SSDI, the better.
Gordon.
Yes.
There was a question. What if you have two children with special needs?
Okay, great question. Well, it affects it. Okay, so we're primarily talking about adult child benefits. So what you can have is you technically, in that case, can have both children drawing off of a parent's record. You can also have a spouse drawing off of a parent's record. But again, we run up against the family max. And in many situations, we're finding we have to weigh both spouses drawing off of their own records. And this is really an important calculation because if both parents draw off of their own records, then the two children that were mentioned in this example can be the only two drawing off of the parent's record that has the largest income record. And therefore, the spouse with a lesser income record draws their own benefit. And then the two children, along with the parent with a higher income, hit the family max. And so that enables you overall to go beyond the family max because you're hitting the family max on the one parent, and then the other parent is drawing off of their own record. In those situations, we're actually seeing benefits beyond $5,000 a month. Potential exists that we're pushing up against $6,000 a month. Let me give you an example. If the parent that draws off of their own record is drawing $1,500 a month, and the family max for the other income earner is $4,500, then that income earner could draw their own personal benefit, such as $2,000 per month. And then the children, well, let's say the parent draws $2,500. The parent can draw $2,500. The children, the two children could draw up to an additional 75% of that record. So if you have 2,000 for the large income earner, an additional 75% between the two children. Now, one child could not draw 75, but if you have two, it is possible for the two together to draw 75%. 75% of 2,000 would be 1,500. And so the parents drawing 2,000, the two children combined are drawing 1,500. Now we're at 3,500. If the other parent is drawing 1,500, we're at 5,000. And if the benefits were to climb up from there, again, you're north of $5,000 a month. But these situations need to be looked at on an individual basis. And so please take advantage of the follow-up consultation where we'll actually work together to get Social Security reports and do some calculations because I've seen the difference in these decisions can amount on an annual basis to as much as $10,000 a year. Critically important. Thank you so much for the question. All right. The next thing I want to talk about, yes.
There's another one. Do you have to spend the SSDI money every month like you do SSI?
Okay. For Social Security purposes, no. However, it is rare for an individual that we're talking about here to be on Social Security or SSDI and Medicare only. So if they are SSDI and Medicare only, then there is no resource maximum. But if they, in addition to that, are receiving Medicaid services and Medicaid waiver services, then the $2,000 resource limit is still imposed. So again, if there's no SSI, SSDI and Medicare does not require that a person stay under 2,000. But if Medicaid is tagging along via Medicaid waiver services, then the $2,000 available resource limit does still apply. Okay, great question. Next, we want to talk about an exciting development, and this is our children with special needs drawing Social Security disability off of themselves. And this is primarily a function of the last 10 years, but as they have achieved part-time employment in many situations, their earnings is now enough to where they're receiving Social Security disability off of their own earnings record. So how much does it take and how long? It only takes $5,880 a year to get the benefit of 4 quarters for Social Security. So that basically means $500 a month. So if they're earning $500 a month or $125 a week, something like that, and that can be done with only 15 hours a week. So if they're working 5 hours a day, 3 days a week, it does not take substantial employment to hit the 5,880. But if they're hitting that, then in a year they do that, they get 4 quarters. And it only takes 8 quarters at the youngest age to become insured for disability purposes. So we see people within the context of 3 years potentially becoming eligible to draw Social Security disability off of themselves. It's really exciting because the Social Security disability then pushes out the SSI, and more of their Social Security benefits are not subject to reduction for their income. So we're starting to see more and more of this. All of its progress, it's all positive. So SSI and or SSDI can coexist well with part-time employment. That's the message in the third bullet point. It isn't either or. A person can have SSI or SSI and SSDI and still maintain part-time employment. Unlike SSI, as we said, SSDI does not require resources to be kept to less than 2,000, but Medicaid does. Unlike SSI and SSDI, or SSDI does not penalize for earned income. So let's look at a quick example here. Let's say a consumer earns $800 a month. They're really doing well from their part-time job while receiving $400 a month from SSDI, while still maintaining their Medicaid and Medicaid waiver services. No problem. They, of course, have to stay under $2,000 in resources because of the Medicaid and waiver. but there's no problem with them having that $1,200 a month, $800 from their job, $400 from SSDI. You know, $1,200 a month, probably paying little to nothing in taxes, healthcare taken care of through Medicaid and Medicare as well, because they would have Medicare because the SSDI. I tell you, working these benefits to the advantage of our adult children with special needs is just incredible. Okay. And the last slide on SSDI, the consumer becomes eligible for Medicare after 24 months of SSDI benefits. Child benefits can also reach as much as $2,000 a month, depending upon whether the parent's triggering event was retirement, disability, or death. So we are seeing survivor benefits in some cases reaching close to $2,000 per month. And if they maintain eligibility with cost of living increases, that lasts a lifetime. To maximize the child benefit, the highest parent's wage earner drives wages up to 67, as we mentioned before, or their full retirement age before drawing Social Security retirement. I think we're going to be transitioning now to Medicare, Medicaid, and waivers. So, but before we leave Social Security, any other questions anyone has? The message is positive. That is, they can have, if they're able, they can have employment and maintain their benefits. They can have meaningful employment. They can drive their incomes up to significant levels. The key is to really keep in mind that $1,310 per month, and keep in mind the $2,000 resource limit. Okay, if there are no questions remaining, we're going to move on because it's almost 7:30, and that'll leave us a half hour for our discussion on Medicaid and waivers. Again, don't think you have to remember all of this, and please take advantage of the free follow-up consultation where we can look at all of what we're covering as it applies to your individual situation. Okay. Medicare. Please do not confuse Medicare and Medicaid. People often do. Also, please do not assume because your child becomes Medicare eligible, they lose Medicaid. Absolutely not. We're going to start with a discussion on Medicare. Medicare covers medical needs. Most of you are probably aware there's Part A, B, C, and D parts to Medicare. Medicare Part A is hospitalization. Medicare Part B is a physician and other services. Medicare C is your Advantage plan, which combines elements of Medicare, and Medicaid D is prescription card. So what does Medicare have to do with your child with special needs? Isn't Medicare something for those that are 65 and older? The answer is yes, Medicare is for those that are 65 and older, but it's also for individuals that have a disability. And what triggers eligibility for Medicare is when they become eligible for SSDI and 2 years go by. So if they've been drawing SSDI for 2 years, they become Medicare eligible. And in many cases, we see your adult child eligible for Medicare before the parent is. So we have an adult child in their 20s or 30s on Medicare, parents not even 60 yet. So it's tied into the SSDI. Okay, on the other hand, Medicaid is a needs-based program. Again, remember, SSDI goes with Medicare, SSI goes with Medicaid. Implementation by each state individually with reimbursement by the federal government and government health insurance for children, typically with certain disabilities. And it covers the cost of certain medical care for those with low income. Children may qualify if a parent's receiving Social Security or Social Security disability, and Medicaid funds the Medicaid waiver benefits. And Medicaid pays Medicaid bills. Medicaid pays medical bills for people who have low income, cannot afford medical care, and meet other eligibility requirements. States design their own programs with federal standards, and people receiving SSI or temporary cash assistance are automatically eligible. If age 18 or older, application for SSI is required prior to applying for Medicaid or Medicaid waiver services. So please keep that in mind. If someone is 18 or over and they have not yet applied for the waiver, once you're 18, because Indiana is what's called a 1634 state, and we have signed on in 2014 to the national or the federal standards, excuse me, and guidelines. Once they're 18, they have to, at a minimum, have a pending application for SSI before they can apply for Medicaid and or Medicaid waiver services. Okay, this is just a sampling of the type of Medicaid services that are required in a Medicaid program. So just kind of gives you an idea. You may be taking advantage of some of these or perhaps not aware. Now I should tell you that in Indiana, there are over 20 types of Medicaid. And we certainly don't want to spend our balance of our time dissecting all the different forms of Medicaid. However, one of the benefits of having a Medicaid waiver, such as the Family Supports Waiver, the Aged and Disabled Waiver, the Community Integration Habilitation Waiver, the Choice Program, the Traumatic Brain Injury Waiver, to name a few, is that with it comes one of the most prized forms of Medicaid. So even if you have Medicaid, but you don't have a waiver, there may be an advantage in pursuing a Medicaid waiver for being able to shift to what we typically refer to as disability Medicaid. And one of the differences is how forgiving Medicaid is for income. So if you're concerned at all because you have part-time employment or you are drawing Social Security disability from a parent's record or expect to, meaning the potential exists, if not in the present, but in the future, your income may rise up to a higher level, then it's probably worthwhile, if you're not on a Medicaid waiver, to explore or examine what Medicaid waiver you may be eligible for, because the disability Medicaid that comes with having a Medicaid waiver is much more forgiving in terms of the income limits you're allowed to have. Because the potential exists that if between adult child benefits and a part-time job, your monthly income gets up to like $2,000, you can easily be at risk of losing Medicaid if you don't have disability Medicaid that's tied to a Medicaid waiver. So again, if you or if it's your family member that has a disability or special needs and they are not on one of these waivers, all the more reason that we need to get together for the follow-up consultation. Because sooner or later, you may wish that they were on one of those waivers, and some of them do have a bit of a wait, and it may be inconvenient to wait 6, 8, or 12 months for a waiver when you need it now because of an income issue triggered as a result of a parent's event, death, disability, or retirement. So again, these benefits are related. They integrate with each other, et cetera. And so it's really integral how one benefit affects another and what the limits and the guidelines are. And that's where it really does get a bit complicated. So if it were one single benefit, that's different. But you know, when you've got SSI, SSDI, Medicaid, waivers, Medicare, when you have a mixture of all these benefits, then again, it gets a little more complicated because you have different limits and guidelines that apply to each benefit. And as you layer the benefits on top of benefits, some guidance is really helpful in navigating how to maintain eligibility for all of them. Now, at this point, of course, the knee-jerk reaction is phooey on it. Too complicated, too much trouble. I'm just going to bag it and walk away. And while it's tempting to do that, I have to tell you, these benefits are worth easily hundreds of thousands of dollars. And few of us are in a position to personally fund or privately fund all of the benefits that the government provides. And so that's why over the 20 plus years that special needs has been my passion, I've focused on the nuances of all these benefits so that I can help guide families both through the process of eligibility for benefits and then trying to maximize those as we advocate for our loved ones that have special needs. Any questions on Medicaid so far? Because we're about ready to go into Medicaid waivers. Okay. Medicaid waiver programs. Two things on Medicaid waivers. Number one, the why. Medicaid waivers came about as a result of the societal shift in the 80s and into the 90s, where as a society, we moved in the direction of IEPs, individual education plans, 504s, and a myriad of programs, including First Steps, special needs preschool. And Medicaid waivers were a part of the societal shift. And that is to keep our special family members at home and in the community and invest in them. Special Olympics, again, also a part of this societal shift and movement to focus on quality of life and maximizing on ability and focusing less on disability and more on ability and what can be accomplished. And again, what quality of life can be enjoyed and the contribution that not just we can make to them, but that they can make to families and to society. And so Medicaid waivers were a response to the old system where many of our family members with special needs were cared for in an institutional setting. And so as many of these facilities were repurposed to other objectives and goals, and our family members with special needs would stay at home and we would invest in them, we had some challenges on the Medicaid side because Medicaid benefits were tied up in these large facilities. That's where the government help was. And so how do we get help in the home and community? And so home and community-based waiver services were born, and the federal government provided guidelines via federal legislation, and then the states crafted their own programs. So all states are unique and different. So any of you that have moved from some other state to Indiana know this because the program or programs you had at another state would be different than what we have in Indiana. There bears some resemblance one state to another, but the programs, the budgets, the services, how they're, the eligibility, the application process, maintaining eligibility, the reporting process, and so forth, all vary state to state. And so I primarily focus on Indiana and on Kentucky. And those two states vary, Indiana and Kentucky. And right now, Indiana is looking pretty good, frankly. We made a major reorganization of our Medicaid waiver programs back in the fall of 2012, about 8.5 years ago, and it has been quite beneficial. Kentucky has not done that yet, but changes are in the wind because the major Medicaid waiver that most are seeking in Kentucky now has a wait of 10 years or more. Okay, so states can waive, where the term waiver come from, waiving roadblocks or certain requirements that blocked eligibility to services. So the two major roadblocks waived are where the services are provided, therefore the language in the home and community or home and community-based waiver services. And the second was allowing a family's assets or resources not to undermine eligibility. So that made Medicaid waiver services available to the masses, and states, of course, are feeling it from a budget standpoint. But again, in Indiana, we're doing better than most. Eligibility is based on a recipient's income, not the parents'. The monthly maximum overall income, and this is tied to the disability Medicaid we were talking about a moment ago, $2,382 a month. That's right. An individual on disability Medicaid receiving waiver services can have a total income of up to $2,382 per month. It's amazing. Asset, of course, still $2,000, regardless of age. Eligibility for children is based on the child's status, not the parents. And with waiver comes disability Medicaid. So that's why many people pursue the waiver, not just to get a budget and get services through waiver service providers, but also to get the prized disability Medicaid that comes with it. Indiana specifically, I touched on these a moment ago. We'll go into just a slight more detail, but the most popular waiver programs are right up at the top: Family Supports Waiver and the Community Integration Habilitation Waiver. Those two waivers are handled through the BEADS office system, which is the Bureau of Developmental Disability Services. And so there's a network of these offices. Each office handles numerous counties. And some of the offices include office locations in Terre Haute, Indianapolis, Muncie, Fort Wayne, Clarksville, South Bend, just to name a few. There's one Northwest as well. So, but these offices assist families with applying for the waiver and the approval process. And then once approved, a family will select a case manager, and then the case manager will assist with crafting, of course, waiver services to be utilized, and then you'll interview waiver service providers. So the BEAD system is one, and then the other is the Area Agency on Aging. And this is a separate network, and the Area Agencies on Aging assist with the Aged and Disabled Waiver, previously known as Fragile Child Waiver, the TBI or Traumatic Brain Injury Waiver, and the Choice Program. So each of the two distribution systems have their own sets of waivers, and you might say, well, you know, why are they divided up? And the answer is the focus. The focus of the Family Supports and the Community Integration Habilitation Waiver is largely intellectual and developmental disabilities. The Aged and Disabled Waiver, TBI, and Choice Program leans toward the health side or medical side of services that are appropriate. So, so that's the rationale for how it's divided up, and then it goes through budgets and so forth. Family Support's about $17,000 a year, by far the most popular waiver, about an 8 to 10 month wait. The Community Integration Waiver is the waiver with deep pockets. Many people call it the golden ticket, and that's on a case-by-case basis. One needs to have a substantial situation where an individual may be a danger to themselves or others, where parents may be aged, disabled, or deceased. So it takes significant situation to have the state grant a CIH waiver these days. Okay. All right. So those are kind of a summary of the waiver programs for Indiana. There's also in Indiana the CHIP program, Children's Health Insurance Program, and criteria for eligibility there. Covers children to age 19. Recipients must qualify based on income, and there are a series of services that are covered. There's also children with special health care needs, and this is based on diagnosis. There's a series of diagnoses that can qualify a person. SSI eligible children can receive these additional benefits. There is a financial criteria, and these services are available birth to 21 years of age. And we're nearing the end of this evening's workshop, so we're doing well on time, and we'll have a little time at the end for any additional questions that you wish to ask. But typically the special needs planning process is a teaming process between special needs attorneys and special needs financial planners like myself. And so it's understanding the financial needs of an individual, social, medical, legal, providing a financial needs and legal analysis, coordinating financial and legal strategies with financial professional and attorney on a team basis. And I'm pleased to tell you that we have an informal network of attorneys in Indiana to assist with the legal side of special needs planning, as well as appealing government benefit decisions such as SSI and or Medicaid administrative hearings, et cetera. So we have, again, attorneys scattered across the state, and I'm very thankful for them. They focus primarily on elder law and special needs. And so we have attorneys in Fort Wayne, Lafayette, Indianapolis, New Albany, Evansville, just to name a few cities where we have attorneys located. If there are any families participating that are from the Kentucky side of things, we have attorneys in Kentucky as well. Work together to ensure that benefits such as Medicaid and SSI are maintained, and so forth. So we have processes in place, but our approach is a comprehensive one at meeting all the various needs, both legal, financial, and government benefits that a family has that has a family member with special needs. Okay. My contact information is noted on the screen. I have offices again in Louisville, which is where I'm sitting this evening. Also Indianapolis at 96th and basically 31 or Meridian Street on the north side. Also the website, and I invite you to visit the website, which is the www.gordonfhome.com. There we have schedule of upcoming workshops. Feel free to share with others. Also, if you know of any other organization that would benefit from the material that we're covering this evening, then do feel free to invite them to have a series like we're doing for Special Olympics Indiana. Also invite friends that you know that would benefit to participate in the remaining 2 sessions on the next 2 successive Tuesdays. Look for an email Thursday morning thanking you for participating. That will also mention the free follow-up consultation. I'd like to open it up for questions, and you can put that into chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, I'm yours until 8 o'clock. So any questions about government benefits anyone would like to ask this evening?
Gordon, there is one in the chat regarding attorneys. She lives in Evansville and would like to contact an attorney to help her get things started for her son. Would you recommend starting with you or an attorney?
Start with me, because if we make the referral, it will go more smoothly with the attorney. The efficiency of our processes typically enable attorneys to provide services at a lower fee. So families will typically fare better starting with me, where I'm able to develop the case, and then we can make a referral to the attorney and monitor the process so that it's done time effectively. We have a great relationship in Evansville, and a shout out to several Special Olympics programs, counties, regions, and programs in Indiana, where I've actually physically gone out and provided workshops. One is there in the southwestern corner of the state. Great organization down there in the Evansville area, Newburgh, Mount Vernon. Trying to think, Warwick, Green Sullivan, a variety of counties down there. Francie Smith does an amazing job down there, and the county coordinators are terrific as well. I've been up to Rochester as well, up toward northern Indiana. And I'm sure I'm leaving out some other groups down in the Johnson County area as well. Kevin Akers and crew down there, just phenomenal people involved in the Special Olympics Indiana organization. It's really an honor to be a part of it, and in any way I can to support your efforts. Other questions?
Gordon, so there's 2 on the chat. One I can answer. She's on her phone and can't see the contact information. I see that Special Olympics Indiana can get that information to her, but also the email on Thursday morning will have all the information to contact us also. And then the question for you is, what is the transition process from SSI to SSDI?
Okay, well, the answer is it depends. It depends upon whether the transition is occurring because a parent has had a triggering event, death, disability, or retirement, or whether the consumer themselves have reached a point where they are insured for disability based on their part-time employment. So if a parent situation, then at the time the parent would retire, in other words, make a claim themselves for retirement or disability, they would disclose having an adult child with special needs. And that would trigger Social Security to connect their claim with their child's claim at that point on SSI, and to look at transitioning them to SSDI or a combination thereof. If it is the child themselves that's drawing SSI while working part-time, then technically Social Security is supposed to monitor them. And they do normally do this, and they will automatically, without making a claim, kick in and send a letter out when they become eligible for SSDI benefits. And in most cases, the child is a hybrid. What I mean by that is that their part-time job makes them eligible for SSDI, but usually the SSDI benefit is not sufficient to completely replace the SSI benefit, and so they're able to draw from both wells. But the difference primarily is in the case of a child, adult child benefit, the parent needs to disclose having the adult child, and then that gets the claims connected for the transition. in the case of the adult child themselves off of their own record, Social Security should be monitoring that. But I do encourage people periodically to go on the Social Security website and pull their Social Security report to see what it reflects. Other questions?
There's no more in the chat.
Okay, all right. Well, I yield back roughly the 8 minutes that is left. And what a wonderful group you've been this evening. I so appreciate everyone making time for this, and also those that were so kind to put questions into the chat and help with the discussion. Look for the email Thursday morning. Invite friends and others to join in. Our next session will be on guardianship and alternatives to guardianship. So we'll be looking at not only guardianship, but options available that are different from guardianship. We will also take a deep dive into ABLE accounts, what they are, what they're not, and how they have changed. So with that, again, thanks to Special Olympics for hosting, and we'll sign off for this evening. Thanks, everyone.